This is extremely petty by the New York Knicks, as massive news has come out revealing that Toronto's could be the next destination for WNBA franchise, and essentially Knicks ownership, James Dolan, people in the front office are trying to veto the WNBA coming to Toronto based on some frivolous lawsuit from last season. So we're going to break down this story, the story of the WNBA coming to Toronto, as well as DeMar DeRozan speaking out once again about how the trade away from Toronto has affected his NBA career. So lots of stuff to sink our teeth into, but I want to jump straight into the petty madness from New York Knicks ownership, all of that type of madness. Now, this story goes back ages, back 2014, Kyle Lowry potentially getting dealt to the Knicks, back before even involving the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri and the New York Knicks finessing him in that Carmelo Anthony trade, and ever since that point, I don't think necessarily New York Knicks fans, I don't think there's a lot of beef between Knicks fans and Raptors fans, but particularly Knicks ownership and I guess Raptors ownership and Masai Ujiri, those types of groups, they have been clashing for years. And last offseason, news came out that the New York Knicks were suing Darko Rajaković coaching staff for stealing data from the New York Knicks, trade secrets, all that type of stuff. And nothing's really come from that lawsuit, but essentially, Adrian Wojnarowski came out with a little bomb today regarding the WNBA and the Toronto Raptors that hasn't stopped James Dolan from trying to really stick it to the Toronto Raptors once again. It's essentially, news has come out that ESPN sources in approving a new WNBA franchise in Toronto, the WNBA Board of Governors voted 13-0, and that the NBA's Board of Governors voted 29-1. That obviously that franchise could come to Toronto. Only the New York Knicks voted against the expansion. The Knicks are suing the Raptors in a case of alleged theft of property information. So basically, what does this mean? Well, every single franchise in the entire NBA is excited, open about Toronto acquiring a WNBA franchise. But James Dolan, the Knicks owner, just can't accept, basketball coming to Toronto, I guess, because of some made-up crazy lawsuit. Again, lots of strong words thrown that way last offseason, but no real details have been revealed along those lines about any truth to the accusations that were made towards the Toronto Raptors stealing data from the New York Knicks. So James Dolan's still a bit butthurt. He's still a bit frustrated and is trying to prevent the city of Toronto from getting a WNBA expansion franchise, which I find absolutely hilarious. Obviously, it's not going to have an effect. Every single other franchise, every single other WNBA franchise is approving the sale of the Toronto Raptors, or the city of Toronto acquiring a WNBA team, and that's awesome. That's huge to see, and we're seeing a lot of people come out with this being made official yesterday. We heard the essentially reports. Everyone expected to get approved, but it got officially approved yesterday. But big news for the city of Toronto, and a lot of people have been speaking out, a lot of people coming out to these events, basically breaking down what's happening. So, some news has dropped. Essentially, former Raptors executive Teresa Resch has been named to the president of Toronto's new WNBA team. So this is big because I know there's a lot of confusion about why she was sort of let go, or at least moved on from her position with the Toronto Raptors. Well, this is probably why. Masai Ujiri, Teresa Resch, and Larry Tannenbaum, who is the guy facilitating this WNBA franchise expansion, right, probably said, hey, leave this position, get out from under, Rogers and everyone that doesn't really want a WNBA franchise here, and then you can get this big promotion, big position, in the WNBA. So that's pretty cool. And we also saw, a bunch of people come around. Justin Trudeau shaking hands with Masai Ujiri. Whatever you think about Justin Trudeau, I mean, it's cool to have the Prime Minister being involved with stuff like this. And obviously, Kyle Lowry, the Raptors' growth, was back in business for a WNBA expansion franchise, despite being on the Philadelphia 76ers this previous season, still amped up about the city of Toronto getting a WNBA expansion franchise. And had some cool quotes come out regarding this entire situation as well. Basically, Kyle Lowry said, to have a team here, it's going to be amazing. So that was pretty cool. We also got an update revealing that the renovation to Coca-Cola Coliseum will be privately funded per Resch. So the WNBA will practice at the University of Toronto as plans for team facility are finalized, and Resch said Tannenbaum is committed to that. So basically, that's really cool to see, because so many times an expansion franchise comes to a different place, to a different city and stuff. They need a new stadium, and basically, they want some public funding. They want some tax dollars thrown away, you know, to renovate stadiums and stuff like that, to give back to the community and stuff. But it's really cool to see an expansion franchise come in and the billionaire owners come in and actually renovate the stadiums on their own without tax dollars coming in there. So just a massive W all the way around. W. Little memes there for the WNBA, but whatever you think about the WNBA, whether you're a follower of it or not, the expansion, you know, if you're going to be following it right away, to have a team in Canada, the same way, you know, there's a team for Toronto and Canada, I wouldn't be nearly as invested in the NBA if there wasn't a team, wasn't that I could really latch on to, especially in my country, you know, a team to really gang to. So, I mean, the WNBA having a team in Toronto, I'm pumped up to sort of check it out. Maybe get some hometown heroes come home like Kia Nurse or someone to really have the star power there in the city as well. I mean, that's just going to be really cool to see. So excited to see all that sort of stuff come into play, come into fruition. And despite the fact that New York Knicks being extremely petty, this rivalry being an excuse to continue with New York Knicks ownership and stuff. And I'm making a video later about finesse we might be making with the New York Knicks as well. But cool stuff to see, but let's dive into the second topic of discussion. And the next thing we're taking a look at is DeMar DeRozan speaking out on the Toronto Raptors trade once again. Now, DeMar DeRozan, obviously, he's made it public. He's made it known how much the trade away from the Toronto Raptors has affected him. You know, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for Masai Ujiri. It wasn't easy for Raptors fans. You know, how tightly ingrained DeMar DeRozan was into the city of Toronto, into this organization, wanted to be the star, wanted to take us to the promised land. You know, it was tough seeing DeMar DeRozan end up having to get traded away. Obviously, that led to an NBA championship, so the hearts of Toronto Raptors fans were kind of quickly bet, probably more than DeMar DeRozan's was, and he's still speaking out about it. Said, basically coming out saying, it effed me up big time. I'm being honest, it's crazy. I'm more than comfortable talking about it now, but for the longest time, it effed me up because, one, that was the place I wanted to be, and thought that that's where I was going to be. Gave everything to it. So DeMar DeRozan also went out and discussed how basically he essentially thought that, you know, LeBron James is the big boogeyman that was holding back the Toronto Raptors from reaching the finals to reaching new heights. And then essentially LeBron James ended up leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers, going to the Western Conference. The boogeyman was there no longer, and Toronto had a real opportunity to go to the finals, to go win a championship, but didn't get the chance to with DeMar DeRozan under the sort of wings. Obviously, we won a championship with Kawhi Leonard. I think it's tough for any Raptors fans to disagree that the team was improved for that one season where DeMar DeRozan was gone. Obviously, you can make the argument that, hey, maybe we would have won the championship anyways, regardless, if we didn't make that deal with DeMar DeRozan there, bringing in Nick Nurse. I know there was a lot of excitement about DeMar DeRozan leveling up his defensive play that offseason prior to him actually getting traded. So, I mean, I get DeMar DeRozan's frustration because he probably thinks the Raptors could have won a championship regardless there, and I don't know. Whether you agree or not, I'd like to hope, because I love those DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry-led basketball teams. It's water under the bridge now at this point. The Raptors won a championship, so regardless of if we would have won a championship anyways, that guarantees a deal. That Kawhi Leonard, you know, in hindsight now, guaranteed a championship. So, I mean, you make that move 10 times out of 10. You don't have cold feet, despite the fact Kawhi Leonard left and despite the fact it altered the course of our franchise for the future. But, I don't know. Always tough to see DeMar DeRozan sort of speak out, bring out how he was hurt by that trade. Obviously was a tough situation, but obviously we got a championship out of it, so that's just how it goes. But folks, you guys have best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.